Well, I want to say my good morning to all of you. Crossroads is a multi-site church. That means we're one church in 4 different locations. And so I want to welcome the other locations joining us together, our Hastings, our Eagan, our Cottage Grove, and our Woodbury campus. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're in a series. It's either week 3 or week 4, depending on whether you count the blizzard or not. But we're in a series called I Quit. And I think that quitters, when you think about people who are quitters, I think that quitters have a bad rap in our culture. I think a lot of people associate quitters as being, they're cowards. Quitters are these people who are losers. We have all these different labels for quitters. And I actually think, and you can disagree if you think I'm wrong on this. I think sometimes quitters are the most courageous people on the planet. And the reason why I say that quitters are the most courageous people on the planet is for this very simple reason. They have the courage to end things that other people endure. They have the courage to end things that need to be ended. They have the courage to go against the grain and go against the crowd and to say, I quit. I'm not going to play that game. Whether it's, as we've looked at 2 weeks ago, the comparison game, or whether it's, as we looked at last week, the religion game, the going through the religious motions and going through the religious hoop game, or whether it's going to be, as we look at next week, quitting the getting even game, the revenge game, or 3 weeks from now, as we talk about quitting the complaining game. All of these things, friends, we can't win until we quit doing those things. And today, we're going to look at something that we need to quit. Because what we're doing as a country, what we're doing as families, it is absolutely stressing us out. I'm going to talk about something today that every pastor loves to talk about, and every parishioner, by the way, you are a parishioner. I don't know if you knew that or not. Every parishioner loves to hear messages or sermons about. Because I'm going to talk today about money and about managing money. All right? And some of you, and I can read your mind right now, you're thinking, if I had only known what the topic was, I would have gone to Bedside Baptist today. I would have been sitting under the preaching of Pastor Pillowtop instead of Pastor Phil. And I get it. I get it. I get it. I really, really, really do. But we must talk about money and how we're managing money, because we've got to quit. We've got to quit managing money like the majority of Americans are managing money, because of the stress it's causing, the pressure it's causing in our homes, our families, our marriages, it's just craziness. So let me just put my cards on the table and give you my motivation. And I'll ask you actually to respond to this. Why do you think I am taking this step of talking about money today? I'll give you some options. Here's the first one. So that you can start giving more generously. That's A. B, so that you can sleep better at night. C, so that you can save for the future. D, so you can buy my $5 latte at Starbucks when we see each other. Or E, all the above. Now, at all of our campuses, everybody participating, shout out the letter answer. What do you think? 1, 2, 3, go. E. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's actually D. D is the correct answer. D. Actually, I want all of these for you. I really do. But I want D for me. All right? I just want to make that really, really clear. Now, let me just go over this very quickly with you. I actually do want you to give more generously. I really do. I mean, any pastor that stands up in a crowd and says, "Oh, no," they're not being honest with you. I want you to give more generously to places like Crossroads, or if Crossroads is not your church, to whatever your church is. I want you to give more generously to places like organizations like IJM or World Vision or Safe Families or Arrive Ministries. These places and organizations that are making a difference in this world, I want you to fund them. I want those things, those organizations to do their thing and make a difference in this world. So yes, I want you, letter A, I want you to give more generously for their sake and for God's kingdom's sake. But I also want you to give more generously for your sake. Do you know that the happiest people on the planet are the most generous people on the planet? I mean, study after study, survey after survey shows that the more generous we are, the more joy-filled and the happier we are. And that's just not me saying that. Jesus said it, didn't he? And Luke, one of his followers, recorded Jesus saying the infamous words, it's more blessed to give than to what? Receive. Yeah, and it's so true. And I want you to experience that kind of blessing in your life. But letter B, I want you to sleep better at night. Why? So that you will be less cranky. That's why. No, that's just a joke. I want you to sleep better at night. And by the way, Americans aren't sleeping very well when it comes to money. In fact, study after study shows that the word that Americans associate with their financial picture, the number one word that Americans choose to describe how they feel about their money situation is the word worry, stress, pressure. And as you look at the studies and you dig a little deeper under the surface, you find out why in a hurry. Because 52% of Americans, and that's the conservative number, it's probably much higher than that, 52% of Americans are spending more each month than they're making. Let that sink in. The majority of Americans are spending more money every month than they're taking in. And if you're thinking right now, yeah, so what's the big deal? You really need to stay awake during this message. You really, really do, all right? But unless your first name is U.S. and your last name is government, that is not a sustainable plan right there, all right? Yeah, we can't print money. We can't do what our government is doing. And this kind of living, this kind of lifestyle that the majority of us are into right now, all it does is it creates stress. I want you to be at rest and not stress. So I want you to manage money better so that your stress level can go down. Thirdly, or letter C, I want you to save for the future. I really do. Why? Because the future is coming at us like a freight train. The future will soon be here. And if you have not saved for what you know is right around the bend, you're going to be going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into debt, which is not good at all. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We all know there are certain things in the future coming at us, right? Whether it's college or whether it's marriage or whether it's buying our first home or whether it's retirement or whatever, those things are coming, aren't they? And we've got to be prepared for them. But we also need to be prepared for those unexpected things that are also coming. You know, the furnace goes out, or the roof starts leaking, or the transmission in the car goes out, or you need a root canal. How many of you have had a root canal? All right, but yeah, just been there, done that a couple weeks ago. Boy, isn't that fun? Yeah, but that costs money too. And when you need that, you don't just say, I don't have the money for that. You do it. So I want you to save for the future because the future is coming at us. And by the way, we Americans are not saving for the future. Do you know that 66% of all Americans in a recent poll, when they were asked, if an emergency came up and you needed $1,000 to pay for that emergency, 66% of Americans said, there's no way I could come up with that kind of money, $1,000. So we need to save better for the future. This whole thing, this whole plan that we're on here, we've got to get off that bus. We've got to say, I quit. I quit living paycheck to paycheck. I quit spending more money than I'm making. I quit not having savings in the bank. I quit not being able to buy my pastor a $5 latte at Starbucks. I quit. Now, since you loved last week's chart that I put together, thank you so much for all of your encouragement. I've put together something else for you to show you what I call the crazy cycle. This is where we're living our lives. This is why we're talking about money today. And here's the American crazy cycle. We get money, we spend all the money or more than all the money, we go deeper into debt, and then what do? We worry about money. And I'm here to tell you that I want us to get out of this cycle. I want us to get off of this crazy bus, this crazy cycle, because we cannot live the lives that God wants us to live as long as we're in that crazy cycle. So I want to lean into this a little bit more today. And what's even more maybe crazy than the crazy cycle is that what most Americans think the answer to this is what? Just get more money. Just get more money. Pastor Phil, you want me to quit living paycheck to paycheck? Get me a better job. Go talk to my boss and get a raise for me. If I just made more money, I wouldn't be in the mess that I'm in right now. If I just made more money, I'd be able to save. I'd be able to give generously. I'd be able to buy you your drink. Just give me more money. And if that's how you're thinking, with all due respect, I need to tell you, friends, that thinking is erroneous. That is not accurate thinking at all. That is false thinking. You see, here's the problem. The vast majority of us don't have a money problem. Vast majority of us do not have a money problem. We have a management problem. In other words, we have a discipline problem. We have spending problems. And the reason for that is we don't really have a plan in how to manage money. Money does not manage itself. Money never ends up in a good place. It does not ever end up in a good place. And so we need a plan. And my guess is some of you are thinking right now, Pastor Phil, I'm not a planner. I'm not a planner. And I would push back to that and say, yeah, we're all planners. Hoping to win the lottery is a plan. Getting money, spending it all, lying awake at night, trying to figure out how we're going to pay all of our bills off is a plan. Those are not good plans, but they are plans. And so what I want us to do today is get into a good plan. Because for the rest of our lives, we're going to be asking one of two questions. For the rest of our lives, doesn't matter how much money you make, you're going to be asking one of these two questions. The first one is, what's the wise thing to do with money? Or, if you don't ask that question, by default, you'll be asking this question: how do I get out of this mess? For the rest of your life and the rest of my life, we're going to be asking one of those two questions. What's the wise thing to do with this money that God's given me? Or, if we don't ask that one, it's going to be, how in the world did I end up here, and how in the world did I get out? Do I get out of this mess? So, we're going to get into it today. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's over 2,000 verses in the Bible about money. Did you know that? There's more verses about money than there are about love. There's more verses about money than there are about prayer. And I scratch my head over that. Like, okay, I don't get it. And yet I start thinking about how messed up we all are. I think God knew we're going to need a lot of coaching. I think God knew we're going to need a lot of help when it comes to money. So what I want to do with you is I want to take the 2,000 verses in the Bible, and I want to kind of do one of these things. I want to compress them all together, and I want to sum up the teaching of the Bible with three statements, all right? Three statements. And I'm going to contrast these three statements, which sum up God's way versus the world's way. And here they are right here. Here's God's way. God's way is summed up in these three statements right here. Give first, save second, and live on the rest. That is God's plan right there. That's 2,000 verses in the Bible all put together. The world's way, on the other hand, is what? It's spend first, save second, and give God the leftovers. Now, if you're not a follower of Jesus, you don't really care about the third one. But we who follow Jesus, we need to care about all of those. And so I want to share with you God's plan. God's plan. I want to go over this with you today. And here's why. Because planning is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's all planning is. And so I want to get in on God's plan with you. And it all starts with this very first one right here, which is to give first. Give first. The give first. What do I do? Right off the top. Before I dispense money any other place, as a follower of Jesus, I say, God, in honor of this life that you've given me, in honor of the fact that you sent your one and only Son to die for me on a cross. God, this first payment is to you. This first chunk of change, God, is for you and for your work. Solomon, one of the wisest people to ever live, he put it this way in Proverbs chapter 3. He said, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part. And by the way, that phrase there, best part, in the Hebrew could be translated the first part, the best part or the first part of everything you produce. Then he, God, what will he do? He will fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. Now, what's the principle here for us? We who don't own barns. What is the principle for us maybe who don't produce crops? Well, the principle here is whatever we get as followers of Jesus, as people who want to honor God, we say, God, you get this first chunk. God, the first part, the best part, God, is for you. That's the principle. Now, why do I give God first? And here's the reason. Because it sets into motion something. Giving first to God, and I just want you to hear this, it's like the bedrock. It's like the cornerstone. It's like the keystone habit that gets us moving in the right direction. When I give God first, right off the top, it's forcing me to be disciplined. And as I said just a few moments ago, we don't have a money problem as much as we have a management problem. And what this give first does first is it puts me on this path of financial peace and financial freedom. I don't know if you know this or not. If you're old enough to ever make money, you know this is true. Money has a way of pulling us in. Money, there's nothing wrong with money, by the way. But money has a way of wooing us. Money has a way of trying to get us to like it or to love it just a little bit too much. And you know that if you've ever made money, that you make money, you want more money. And then you get more money and you want even some more money. And you make more and more and more money and you want more and more and more of it. And we have to be very careful because money is very deceptive. And that's why Paul, the great apostle, the guy who wrote most of the New Testament for us, he put it this way in 1 Timothy chapter 6. He said, for the love of money, not money, but the love of money is what? It's the root of all kinds of evil. And some people craving money have wandered from the true faith, and they've pierced themselves with many sorrows. And my guess is, as I read that verse to you, you're probably thinking of people. Maybe you're thinking of people who've done that. For the love of money, they have deserted their family. They have abandoned their children. They have sort of, ignored their spouse or their friends or their body or just whatever else is important in life. For the sake of more money, they've done that. And that's why we need to, if we're going to break out of this crazy cycle, if we're going to break this spell that money has on us, we must give first. And here's what happens when we give first. Giving first, what does it do? It frees me of the grip that money has on my life. Every time I give money away, you know what happens? Greed and materialism that does this to me, every time I give money away, greed and materialism just lets me go a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But the other thing that giving first does is it gets God involved in my finances. Wow. And I don't know how you feel about that, but you should feel very good about that. You should, not put your hand up right now, but you should, figuratively speaking, put your hand up and you should say, I want that. I want the God of the universe, I want him involved in my financial world. And I can't over-exaggerate to you, friends, how important these two things are. Because when I give first, everybody look up here, God steps in. God steps into my financial arena when I give first, and greed and materialism step out. God steps in, and all of a sudden now, I'm living in his land of blessing, but greed and materialism steps out. And that's why we need to start our financial plan with this very first step. We pick a percent and we say, before we pay the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, we say, God, this is for you. God, this is an honor of you and who you are and what you've done and what you will do in my life. We give first. What do we do second? Well, here it is. We save second. We save second. Why? Why? So that you can be ready for the future that's coming like a freight train. Why do I give second? So that when those unexpected things happen, I don't have to get out a credit card and go deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. That's why I save second, so I can sleep better at night. That's what I do. Now, again, I want to go back to the book of Proverbs, which Solomon, the wisest man outside of Jesus to ever live, he wrote so much. There are dozens and dozens of verses in the book of Proverbs on money. You should read it, really. But one thing that Solomon writes is this right here. This is from Proverbs chapter 6. He says, take a lesson from the ants. Don't you just love ants, by the way? No. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince, governor, or ruler to make them work, what do? They labor hard all summer, gathering for the winter. Interesting. What an interesting couple of verses here. What is the principle here? The principle here is not to be an ant and go around and ruin everybody's picnic. That's not the principle. The principle is what? Be prepared for what you know is coming. Be prepared. Now, of all people, we Minnesotans know that winter is coming. It was over like 3 days ago, and we've got like 3 more weeks before it comes back, right? We know better than anybody that winter is a given in our world. And what God's wisdom, what Solomon in his wisdom is saying is, you know certain things are coming. You know there are unexpected things that are going to be coming your way, maybe even today. And there are things that you know that aren't unexpected. They're expected that are coming your way. And what wise people do, what smart people do, what good managers of their limited resources do is they store away, they save money for those things that they know are coming their way. And Solomon goes on and says these words, and this is Proverbs 21, verse 20. He says, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools, what do? They spend whatever they get. Now, I know that sounds harsh. I apologize for the harshness. Don't email me, email Solomon, though. I mean, I didn't say those words. But the truth is, foolish people spend it all. Foolish people don't put any away. Foolish people just spend blindly. And Solomon knows if we do that, what we end up in is debt. Like deep financial debt. And not just debt, but bad debt. Do you know there's a difference between good debt and bad debt? Good debt is like the debt, the money you borrowed to buy a home. Why? Because homes typically appreciate in value. Good debt is me as a business person taking out a loan to start a business that will make a profit. That's good debt. Bad debt is everything else. Bad debt is taking out money to borrow money to buy things that immediately depreciate in value. That's not good debt. But if I don't save money for those things, I will go deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. And then when that happens, I give a slice of my freedom away. Look what Solomon says. Chapter 22, verse 7. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant. That means slave. That word literally in the Hebrew means one who is in bondage to another one. And that's what happens to us when we borrow money. We become in bondage to the lender. I'm not against banks. Love banks. I'm not against Visa and MasterCard. I love them if you work for them. But when we put things on a credit card that we can't pay off in full, we become their slave. Whoever you owe money to, this is the whole point, whether it's Visa or MasterCard, they own a piece of you. Whoever you owe money to owns a piece of you. And we are supposed to have our master, Jesus Christ, right? Not MasterCard, right? I mean, come on. And this is why Solomon's saying, hey, wise people, they save money for the future. And I know, it's normal today to rack up credit card debt. It's normal just to pay off the minimum monthly payments. I know that's normal, but that is killing us. It is killing us. And what that debt is doing is it is sentencing us to a lower lifestyle in the future. Every time I rack up more debt, my lifestyle for the future is in decline. I'm sentenced to a lower lifestyle. And I just want to say, I wish I had an hour to talk about this. If you've got a ton of bad debt, you don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to put your head down. But if you have a ton of bad debt, just go to DaveRamsey.com or Google Dave Ramsey Debt Snowball. Debt Snowball. It's the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to getting out of debt and getting out of debt quickly. So just do that. Just do that. But we need to realize, friends, that even though credit card debt is normal, it's not good. It's not healthy. Let's not be normal, okay? Let's not be normal. Let's be wise. Because for the rest of our lives, we're either going to be asking, what's the wise thing to do? Or how in the world do I get out of this mess? All right, what do? We give for God's plan. 2,000 verses in the Bible. We give first, we save second, and then what do? We live on the rest. We live on the rest. By the way, everybody is living on some percent of their income. Everybody is. Most people have no idea, and most people it's 100% or more. But let me just tell you what wise people do. Wise people take their income, whatever their income is, and here's what wise people do. Make sure you see this. What wise people do is they drop their standard of living underneath their income level. So whatever it is that you make, $10,000 a year or $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. By the way, if you make $1 million, can I talk to you? Can we have coffee? But if you make $1 million, it doesn't matter what you make. What wise people do is they lower their lifestyle under their standard, their income level. Their standard of living is under their income level. Now, if you don't do that, what you don't have at all is any breathing room, right? You don't have any at all. But when you drop your standard of living underneath your income level, you experience what I believe to be the most beautiful word in the English language. It is this word right here, and it sounds like this, and it looks like this. Isn't that wonderful? And I just want to tell you, as your pastor, that more than anything, I want that for you. More than anything, more than a $5 latte, more than a 5-pound bass, I want you to experience financial breathing room. I want you, more than anything, I want you to experience margin in your financial world. Because when you do, good things happen. Do you know that good things happen in the margins of life? If you have margin in your time, good things are going to happen in your relationships. If you've got margin in your money world, good things are going to happen. And I want that desperately for you. Now, can I have permission just for a couple of minutes to be honest and just share a personal story with you? Permission? All of our, yep, okay. My wife and I, 38 years ago, we got on this plan I've been sharing with you. 38 years ago, when we got married, we literally sat down and we came up with this plan right here. That we were going to give first, save second, and live in the rest. And what we put in, the percentages that we put in, you don't have to do this, by the way. This is what we did. We decided that right off the top, in honor of the God who made us, who loves us, who cares for us, who died on the cross for us, who's coming back for us, who's preparing a home in heaven for us, we just said, you know what, right off the top, let's give 10% back to the local church that we were part of. Now, I was in graduate school at the time. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we decided to take this step. And the second thing we did was we decided we're going to take the next 10%. Before we spend a dime, we're going to, first of all, give God 10%, and then we decided we're going to put 5% into long-term savings and 5% into short-term savings. We're going to put a total of 10% into savings. And then, we're going to figure out how in the world we could live on the rest. Now, Pastor Phil, was that easy to do? No. I kicked and screamed. It was something I was not used to doing. I came from a family we just spent money until it was gone. And all of a sudden we're on this plan. And now I have to live on 80%, not 100%, but 80% of what we were making, which wasn't much. I kicked and screamed. I really did. We had to say no to things that everybody else around us was saying yes to. My wife put me on an allowance. Not a joke. And I had several timeouts in the corner because I was not, that's a joke. No timeouts. I was literally given an allowance because we had to do this, and it was not easy to do. But after several years of doing it, a lesson was learned. Not a lesson that was done the easy way, but what I learned after doing this 10-10-80 thing was this, that I want beats I owe any day of the week. And I so desperately want you to try to get your arms around that today at all of our campuses, that it's far better for you to want something that somebody else has than for you, because you can't afford it, to go get it and then have to worry and be stressed out about how you're going to pay for it. You can't enjoy it. And I learned that the hard way. At first, I wanted what everybody else had, and then I got to the point where no, I don't need to have what everybody else has. You've got to say no to things right now to say yes to a better lifestyle later. And I know this is going to sound so un-American for me to say this, but just because you want something right now doesn't mean you have to get it right now. And just because other people have something that you want doesn't mean that you have a right to have that right now. And I hope that we can get to the point where we realize that. I'm not sharing this with you so that you'll pat me on the back on the way out, or so that you give me a participation trophy because I've tried to do the God plan thing. I don't want that. In fact, I really don't want anything from you outside of that latte. That's all I want. I just got to try to keep it honest, But what I want for you is I want for you what my wife and I have experienced for the last 38 years of our life. You may not believe this, but this is the honest to God truth. I have not worried about money for even 1 second in the last 38 years. It's not because I make a lot of money. It's because when you get on God's plan, I don't know what it is, but God honors it. And I want that so badly for you. I want you to be able to do what my wife and I have done, to be able to give generously, to sleep soundly at night, to save money for the expected and for the unexpected. And I even have money now to go to Starbucks and buy the $5 latte. That took a while, by the way. We drank a lot of Sanka before I got to that point. Boy, if you're drinking Sanka right now, I'll be praying for you afterwards. I really will be. No, I'm bringing this up because I want something for you. So can I just ask you, before we land this financial plane together, what's your plan? What's your plan? What is it? And if you're thinking right now, okay, yeah, Pastor Phil, one of these days, I'm going to do that. One of these days, when I get the raise, when I get the new job, when I get one of these days, I'll get on that give first, save second, live in the rest plan. One of these days I will. As soon as I make more money. Friends, it's not how much you make, it's what you make with what you already have that makes all the difference in the world. It's not what you make, it's what you do with what you already make that makes all the difference in the world. So can we today say, I quit? I quit. I quit living paycheck to paycheck. I quit this craziness of not having savings. I quit this craziness of giving God leftovers. I quit this craziness of laying awake at night trying to figure out how I'm going to make all these things work together. Can we just say, I quit to that? Can we wave the white flag together and say, I'm going to get on God's plan. I'm going to make the decision to do this thing called money management God's way. I'm going to surrender to God's wisdom. I'm going to surrender to God's way. Because if you do that, I've got 38 years of experience to tell you, you'll be glad you did. You will be so glad that you did. All right? All right. I'll see you at Starbucks tomorrow. Let's pray. And God, we declare together in this moment that there's no one like you. There is no one, God, as generous as you are. We declare that together. There's no one, God, as good as you are. And God, we declare today that your ways are higher than our ways. That your wisdom, God, beats the wisdom of this world. And so, God, would you give us courage today? Would you give us courage today, God, to take a step into your plan? Would you give us the courage to break out of the crazy cycle that we're all in and to trust you, not just with our salvation, but with our money? God, give us the courage to put our faith and our hope and our trust fully, fully, fully in you. God, may we build our lives, not in the world's ways, but may we build our lives, God, on your wisdom and your ways. Thank you. God, thank you so much for the truth that we've heard today. Help us to apply it now, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, we're going to stand on our feet right now. And go ahead, you can do that. You can just stand on your feet right now. And we're going to sing a song together. And as we sing this song together, can I ask you just to make this song your declaration today before you walk out of this space? Just make this your declaration right now.